Welcome to today's Crosspoint Devotion. Today I want to remind all of us that we all struggle with wanting to be famous. There's just something inside of us that wants others to recognize us. If you go back to when you were in elementary school, there was probably a time when you wanted to make the highest score on your test so that all the other kids in the room would know you were the best student. Maybe when you got to junior high, you were in a beauty or a beau pageant and you wanted to be elected the queen because you wanted to be remembered forever, or you wanted to be elected the king so that all the guys would think you were cool and you were the most handsome guy in the class. Then when we got into high school, that same desire for fame continued. We wanted to have our jersey retired because we were the best soccer player or we were the best basketball player. Maybe when we finished and graduated, we wanted to be Mr. or Mrs., whatever the name of your high school was, because we wanted people to remember us. And in our little community, in our little school, we wanted to be famous forever. But the problem is we can't be famous forever. There comes a time when people forget who we are. It even happened in the scripture. Recently, I was reading in Exodus chapter 1, and this is a very interesting verse. It says in verse 8, "A new king who did not know about Joseph came to power in Egypt." Now let me read that again. A new king who did not know about Joseph came to power in Egypt. That verse kind of stunned me, because when I started thinking about what Joseph had done in his generation, I was floored to know that in just about 25 or 30 years, or maybe even less, the next king did not even remember what Joseph had done. Now consider Joseph. Joseph had gone down into Egypt because his brothers had sold him into slavery. Then he had worked for a man that was a captain of the guard, and he had done a great job for him, but then his wife made some false accusations. Joseph ended up in jail. But over time, Pharaoh had a dream, and Joseph was lifted up out of the prison to interpret the dream. And when he did, he became the most famous person in all of Egypt and the entire world. Why? Because Pharaoh's dream let them know that we're going to have 7 years of great harvest followed by 7 years of famine. And it was Joseph who came up with a plan. Let's build these huge storage barns, fill those during the 7 years of good crops so that we can survive the 7 years of bad crops. And Joseph did just what he planned, and it all was executed flawlessly. And not only did all of Egypt get saved, but the entire world was saved by the acts of Joseph. You would have thought that for generations upon generations upon generations, people in Egypt and across that known world of that time would have talked about the exploits of a man who saved them because he was wise enough to know we've got to save the good grain for the times of the bad grain, and they would have never forgotten about Joseph. But here's what it says. A new king who did not know about Joseph came to power in Egypt. Within 20 to 30, let's just go real far down the line, within 30 or 40 years, everyone had forgotten who Joseph was. The problem with fame is it's always fleeting. It never lasts forever. The only thing that lasts forever is our faith in God. That's what's most important in your life, and it's what's most important in my life. You see, we can get all the accolades that the earth has to offer us. We can have our jersey hung in the rafters. We can have our name emblazoned in the school annual as the Mr. or Mrs. of whatever our school's name was. But all of that's fleeting. It's going to fade. And there will come another generation behind us who does not know who we are. And the only thing that lasts is when we put our faith in God through Jesus Christ. The one who died for us, was buried, resurrected on the third day. When we put our faith in Him and begin to live for God, that is an eternal commitment that will go beyond this life and into the next. And so today I want to encourage you, if you've gotten caught up in clicks and likes and viral posts, why don't you lay those aside? Because just like in the past, they're going to fade. And instead focus on your faith in Jesus Christ, because that's eternal. And that's the most important thing. Well, I hope that'll encourage you today, and we hope you'll come back for the next Crosspoint Devotion.